I am Jen Dewar, and I'm a marketing consultant with Jally Do. And I've worked with a lot of companies over the years, ranging from global healthcare organizations to local schools and construction companies. And most lately, my focus has been working with the hottest HR and tech startups in the area. So I've done quite a bit of different kinds of marketing over the years, but I found one thing has actually been paramount to my success, and that's content marketing. And the reason for that is that the buying process has changed quite a bit. So if you think about, maybe in the 1940s, 1950s, before the internet was around and you could just Google what you were looking for, people would have to go door to door. They'd have to do calls, or they'd have to wait for somebody to come by their shop. But the salesperson actually had all of the information at their fingertips and would relay that to their buyer. And now the process has changed where actually about 60% of the buying process is done before the customer ever contacts your sales representative for more information. So what we're seeing here is the need to produce content to get in front of that buyer earlier in the buying process, to make sure that you're considered when they are ready to make that purchasing decision and create their short list of vendors, start doing their demos, etc. So in this webinar, we're going to be talking about creating educational content that will fuel your marketing machine and how we're going to turn that content into leads. So first, we want to set the stage for success here. So what we want to make sure we're doing is kind of setting up the building blocks to make sure your content can actually convert into leads. So we're looking at building a landing page that's something that'll convert people kind of further down the funnel. So the bottom of the funnel leads that are ready to convert right away, we want to put that in place before we start generating the content to make sure that once those leads come through, they have somewhere to go. So that would be your demo page, your trial, your download our app, whatever it is you want people to do. Contact sales is another good one. Whatever it is you're looking for people to do at the very bottom of the funnel to actually become a lead, like a hot sales lead, let's get that page up first. Put some calls to action throughout your website. We also want to create a blog. That's a really key part of this playbook. So the blog ideally would live on your domain. So in my case, jallydo.com/blog. What you don't want is to have the blog .jallydo.com. That doesn't really work as well for SEO, and then also can kind of hurt your conversions if you have sort of these two different websites going. You kind of want people to come to your blog and then be able to navigate their way over to their to your calls to action that you've set up that landing page. We also want to set up social media accounts. A big part of creating content that converts is actually promoting it. So the general rule here is that you want to spend as much time promoting your content as you do creating it. And social media, I think, is so key for that. One, because it's cost effective for entrepreneurs that are just starting up. Two, because it has that ability to just go crazy viral if you have the right kind of content. And then three, just because it kind of works to help you nurture those prospects later on. I also recommend setting up a marketing automation platform early on. So, a lot of entrepreneurs I work with are using HubSpot, which has that marketing automation capability. If you're using WordPress, you can integrate with some of the other tools out there, like Autopilot. I really like for startups. I think it's very cost effective, and it has a lot of the functionality that you would need. If you want to go, kind of on the higher end, Marketo is a really great platform as well. So I would set one of those up in the beginning, and what that will allow you to do is kind of track your user behavior so that later on, after you've produced content and you have a prospect list, then you can actually nurture those customers through that automation platform automatically. And I'll show you how to do that a little bit later too. And then finally, you want to add all of that relevant tracking code to your website. So I would normally recommend setting up, so the marketing automation platform will need tracking code. I'd also recommend getting the tracking code for Google Analytics in there so you can analyze all of your content traffic and your conversions and track all of that important stuff. If you ever plan on doing some social ads like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter ads, I know nobody uses Facebook anymore. We were just talking about that, but it still is a really great lead generation platform when used correctly. They have a lot of really great targeting capabilities. So, go ahead and get that tracking code in there as well so that you can see how your ads are actually converting. So a little trick that I like to use, I am on the less technical side of content and SEO. So when I need to add tracking code to my website, I need to ask a developer to do that for me. And all of these kind of little requests kind of add up, especially if your developer is busy working on your app or some other, important product development type stuff. So what I usually ask them to do is just put the Google Tag Manager code on my website. And then I can add all of my individual tracking codes right into Google Tag Manager without having any sort of technical help. So that's a really big tip for this section. Okay, next one. Now we're going to create our content. So if anybody was watching Maren Hogan's post earlier, or not post, her webinar earlier, she spoke a lot about personas. And this is really important for making sure that your content aligns with what your buyers, your leads are looking for. So if you missed her session, definitely go check it out and kind of get a good feel for how to create your personas and how to map those to each stage of the funnel. But we're basically going to think about who is our buyer? What are they interested in? What pain points do they have? And where can we help? What is our expertise? Think about some of those big topics. So for example, I work with a lot of recruitment tech startups. Let's say a company that does an employee referral program. Their buyer is the recruiter, and they're looking for different ways to find candidates, to find high quality candidates, to hire candidates faster, to get, just kind of like make sure that they're getting the right candidates in the door so that they can interview the right people. And those are all topics they're interested in. So we might create some topics around quality of hire, time to hire, etc. And we're basically going to use those big topics there and think about a larger asset that we can produce. So something like a webinar or an ebook are some of my favorites. And so we produce this large piece of content based on a key topic that our target buyer is interested in. And then what we're going to do with that key piece of that large asset is break it into smaller assets. So those would be blog posts are a really good one. And I want those blog posts to then link back to that larger asset. So let's go back to maybe the ebook we wrote on how to decrease your time to hire. And what we're thinking about with here, maybe in the ebook, we have a whole section on why time to hire matters. So that's a good way to repurpose that section of the ebook into a blog post. And then we write that blog post. At the end, we create a call to action that says, for more information on how to get a better time to hire, download this ebook that we created. So what that's going to do is it's going to build your email list so that way you can keep in touch with people over the long term. And in my experience, these sorts of educational assets tend to convert better than if you were to use, get a demo or talk to sales as a CTA, because a lot of people are not ready for that yet. And that's completely fine. Kind of what we're thinking here is we're thinking very long term. So we want to make sure that we're getting people very early in the buying process. And so if they're not really ready for that, that sales conversion yet, that's totally fine. That's what we're looking for. And then finally, we want to make sure that we promote all of our content really well. So like I was saying, half the time creating the content, half the time promoting it. So now we get to the part where we're going to use that super cool marketing automation platform I was telling you about. We want to stay in touch and nurture our prospects that have filled out that form for the gated content and now have our ebook or our webinar or whatever else you put together for them. So we want to develop a regular cadence with them. That means making sure that we're not just reaching out once a year or, maybe we reach out every single day this month and then next month they don't hear from us at all. That's pretty bad. We want to make sure that they're expecting to hear from us on a regular basis. So what I recommend in that case is to create a content calendar. So you map out all of your blog posts for at least the month or the quarter, maybe even the year. You map out all of the emails that you're going to be sending. Map out all of the ebooks and webinars that you're planning for the quarter, for the year. And that way you know that they're kind of publishing on a consistent basis, so you can keep in touch on a consistent basis with kind of what I like to call like a batch and blast email. And those are the ones that a lot of people are probably sending right now. They just email their whole list, hey, we have this new ebook, check it out, it's awesome. But what we also want to do here with this marketing automation platform is we want to kind of get a feel for when people are ready to buy. And that's where it gets really cool / potentially creepy, but mostly cool. So let's go back to that call to action with the landing page we put together earlier. When we have people that have downloaded our ebook, the marketing automation platform now knows this website visitor is, let's see, how do I put this? I'm sorry, this is a little bit confusing to say. The marketing automation platform starts tracking somebody once they fill out a form on your website. So because they're tracking them, they can see what happens after they download that ebook or that webinar. And a lot of the time, / most of the time, eventually, people will work their way toward your product pages. So they might check out what your company does. Why is that related to your time to hire ebook? They'll see what your company does. Maybe they look at your contact us page, but they don't submit the form. And you don't know why. It could be for any reason. Maybe they just don't want to contact you. Maybe their kids jumped headfirst off the couch. Mine did that last night. And they had to run really quickly because, that's kind of a bad situation to be in for your kid. But you never really know what caused them to abandon your contact us or your sales lead conversion point. And so this content marketing platform, this automation platform, can actually let you know that somebody went to your page but didn't fill out your contact form. So you can create kind of that perfectly timed phone call or email to them to get them to take that next step. So whether that's, getting a demo or starting a free trial or actually just kind of talking to them about the app so that they'll go download it. So you can either ping yourself to follow up with a phone call, or you can send them an automated email to remind them to take that next step. So, hey, I noticed that you were kind of checking out our company. I saw you downloaded our ebook. Do you have any questions about our product? And kind of creating that perfectly timed email at the point where the customer was starting to be interested in your product kind of gets you ahead of the game because maybe they haven't reached out to any of your competitors yet. So we're going to use our technology in this case to be a lot more relevant and provide our salesy pitches kind of when they're ready to. And until that point, we're going to stay very educational with those resources, like the ebooks, the blog posts, the webinars, whatever it is you're putting together. So that's about it for our conversation today. Keep it short and sweet, a little 20 minutes here. But if you walk away with anything today, it's these 3 things. One is to create educational content. That is super important. I think a lot of founders are really excited off the bat to get those sales leads in, and rightly so. But you also need to think about the people a lot earlier in that buying process to make sure that you're kind of hitting all of your potential prospects and leads, and that you're helping educate them and guide them down the buying cycle. So once you create the content, you need to promote it really well. And then, like I was saying, nurture those prospects to help them move toward that lead conversion point so that you can get those leads coming in. So that's it. Does anybody have any questions? I can answer them here. You can ping me privately. Let's see, Joanna, we have, I am not a blogger. What other forms of content marketing do you suggest? So that's a really common question, actually. A lot of people say I'm not a writer. But if you think about it as an entrepreneur or as a salesperson, you are writing to people probably quite a bit. You know, you're sending emails to potential customers, to your actual customers, maybe to investors. You can use a lot of that email content to create your blog posts. If you don't want to go that route, you could do podcasts. You can do webinars. What other forms of content marketing? I mean, even just social media posts, 280 characters on Twitter. That's pretty easy to get through. It's better if you have something to send people back to your website, though, for. So sort of like that podcast you can host on your website, the webinars. But I think that there are different ways to write. There's also, you can hire somebody like me to write the content for you. That is where I get my customers from, just the very busy entrepreneurs that are not able to do the content on their own and they've outsourced it, which makes sense. It's just so important to do. Any other questions, or does that answer your question, Joanna? Do you have any other questions related to that? Cool. Well, there's another one. Stephen, what is your experience with timing of social messages by platform? Best time to email, best time to post to Insta, Facebook, etc. So I do a lot of A/B testing. In email, it's a lot easier because a lot of these platforms are built with an A/B testing feature integrated in. So, like Marketo, for instance, I can say, I want you to send one email at 8 a.m. Eastern time and one at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And I want you to tell me which one gets the most clicks or opens. So you can kind of decide what metric you want. Do you want opens or clicks? I like clicks because without the click, does it really matter if they're not coming to your site and possibly converting? So I'm always looking for optimization by click-throughs in emails. And basically, they'll send like 5 or 10% of your list the email at 8, and then 5 or 10% of your list the email at 10. And then maybe the following day, the rest of your list will get whichever time won. And so I'll just kind of keep doing that over and over again until I find like that key time to send my email to my audience, because it does vary by audience. And it's really interesting too. For a long time, I was like a firm believer in Tuesdays at 10 a.m. That's when I sent all of my emails. Because, Monday, everybody's just catching up from the weekend. Friday, everybody's kind of checking out. Tuesday, maybe they're looking for something fun to read. But until I started really A/B testing, I wasn't able to see like the optimal time for my list. So it does vary from person to person. So I would test that. And then same with your social channels. So just kind of test it. And, if your platform doesn't have the ability to test different times, something that I do quite a bit is for like a couple of weeks, I'll vary the times that I post on each of those. And I tag all of my links with like a tracking code. So you can go to, what is the link? Google URL Builder. You basically attach like your source, your medium, and your campaign name. And then you can look up that data in your Google Analytics, and you can see what time of day you're getting the most clicks from each network. And so that's like a custom kind of tracking thing you can do in Google Analytics. But you can just kind of you can Google how to get that set up like step by step. And then once you have it, you can see like the best time to post on each network. And then you can do that for email too. You can just see like which times of day you tend to get the most traffic from your emails. Joanna, what are the online tools you recommend? So recommended. Okay, so there was Google Analytics. I use that for everything. I spend so much time every single day in Google Analytics just seeing what is working, where I'm getting traffic from, what's converting, which emails are sending me the most traffic, which source, so email or social media. I use that all the time. Autopilot is awesome for marketing automation. I like them a lot. They're just a lot less expensive than Marketo, and they have kind of all the functionality that you would need just kind of getting started, and it's pretty user-friendly. I actually use Hootsuite for my social media. Again, I just find that at the price point, it's like $15 a month. I find that it has everything that I need. It could use some more bells and whistles, but honestly, I've used platforms like Meltwater that were, $10,000 a year. And I didn't really find that the cost was worth the added functionality and stuff like that. But just kind of do some demos and see what works best for you there. What other tools do I use? I use so many tools. I use Canva a lot. I use WordSwag as well for creating images for social media. Canva is great for creating images in email. Let's see let me go through my presentation. I think there were some other tools in here that I recommended too. Working automation. Let's see, HubSpot was a big one too. If you kind of want everything all in one place, HubSpot's great for content management system. So you build your web page there. They do the email nurturing. They have a social media publishing tool. They have analytics built in. They kind of have like a little bit of everything. So if you're kind of looking for a one-stop shop, that's a good one. So I think that's kind of for the purposes of this session. I think those are kind of like the big ones that I would recommend. Anything else? Cool. I think that's everything. Thank you for joining me. And if you have any other questions, you can reach me, jen@jallydo.com. I'm always open to chat. All right. See ya. Me again. It's WordSwag. WORDSWAG. You kind of type in your content and then it overlays it on an image for you. And it kind of puts it in like cool, funky letters. If you're like me and you have zero ability to design anything ever. So it's just kind of a cool one. All right. Bye.